There's a gadget in Battlefield 6 right now that can delete rockets out of the air. At first glance, it sounds like a niche defensive tool, something situational, maybe useful against a few specific threats. But once you actually look at how it behaves across different weapons and scenarios, it quickly becomes clear that this is something much bigger. Because this gadget doesn't just counter one or two things, it interacts with almost every major projectile in the game. And that's where things start to feel a little unbalanced. It completely counters RPGs. One of the most important interactions to understand is how it handles RPGs. RPGs are one of the most common and reliable anti-vehicle tools in Battlefield. They're fast, direct, and typically very hard to counter outside of positioning or movement. But this gadget changes that completely. It can intercept RPGs mid-flight, removing them entirely before they reach their target. There's even a clear in-game indicator confirming when a projectile has been neutralized, which makes the interaction consistent and easy to recognize. What makes this particularly strong is that it removes the entire threat. The rocket never lands, never explodes, and never creates pressure. And in some cases, the interaction can even result in the attacker taking damage from their own projectile, depending on timing and positioning. So right away, one of the most reliable offensive tools in the game becomes significantly less effective. Grenades and launchers become risky. This behavior isn't limited to RPGs. Standard grenades can also be intercepted mid-air, even when thrown at height or dropped into contested areas. This adds a layer of control that normally doesn't exist, especially in tight spaces where grenades are used to flush players out. Grenade launchers follow the same pattern. Projectiles fired from systems like the M320 can be stopped before impact, which fundamentally changes how these weapons are used. Instead of being a safe way to apply pressure from a distance, they now carry a level of risk. Because if the gadget is active at the right moment, that explosive never reaches its target. In certain situations, this even creates the possibility of self-damage, where the attacker is punished for using explosives too aggressively. As a result, explosives stop being a guaranteed advantage and start becoming situational. The first limitation? Tanks. One of the few things this gadget doesn't seem to affect is tank shells. These are fast, high-damage projectiles, and unlike rockets or missiles, they don't appear to trigger any kind of interception. The shell simply passes through without any response from the gadget. This is important because it introduces a clear limitation. It suggests that the system is not universally effective, and that heavier vehicle weaponry still maintains its role. For a moment, this creates a sense of balance, where certain threats remain reliable, despite the presence of the gadget. However, that sense of balance doesn't hold for long once the full range of interactions becomes clear. Helicopter missiles are easily countered. When it comes to helicopter weaponry, the gadget becomes extremely impactful. Hellfire missiles, which are designed to be fast and difficult to avoid, can be intercepted mid-flight with consistency. Even volleys of multiple missiles can be neutralized in quick succession, significantly reducing the effectiveness of attack helicopters. Air-to-air missiles behave similarly. These are lock-on weapons that are typically used to secure guaranteed damage against moving targets. But with this gadget, that reliability disappears. Missiles can be intercepted before they reach their target, effectively canceling the entire attack. This dramatically shifts the balance between air and ground combat. Helicopters and jets can no longer rely on their missile systems as dependable tools, especially when facing coordinated players using this gadget. Lock-on systems become unreliable. One of the most significant changes introduced by this gadget is how it affects lock-on weapons. Normally, once a lock is established and a missile is fired, the outcome is predictable. But with this gadget in play, there's now a third outcome. The missile can simply be removed before impact. This makes lock-on systems far less consistent, especially in situations where the target has support from teammates. It also reduces the pressure that these weapons are designed to create, since the threat can be neutralized externally. In practical terms, this means fewer guaranteed eliminations and more reliance on coordination. Even bombs can be stopped mid-air. The gadget's interaction with jet bombs is where things start to feel particularly extreme. Bombs are typically one of the hardest threats to deal with. They move quickly, cover a wide area, and are designed to bypass most defensive options. But even these can be intercepted. When timed correctly, bombs can be detonated mid-air before they reach the ground. This completely removes their impact, preventing both damage and area denial. This is a major shift because it takes one of the most powerful offensive tools in the game and introduces a direct counter to it. Missiles across the board are affected. If a weapon relies on a projectile traveling through space, there's a strong chance this gadget can intercept it. Even multiple missiles fired in quick succession can be handled, as long as timing and positioning are correct. This consistency is what makes the gadget stand out. Vehicle survivability increases significantly. One of the biggest practical impacts of this gadget is how it affects vehicles. Tanks, helicopters, and transport vehicles all benefit from increased survivability when this gadget is present. Anti-vehicle weapons like RPGs and javelins become less reliable, which reduces the overall threat level. This means vehicles can stay active for longer periods, take more aggressive positions, and rely more heavily on team support. Instead of being vulnerable to a single well-placed rocket, they now require sustained pressure to be taken down. And that fundamentally changes how vehicle combat plays out. Mines and explosives lose value. The gadget also has a strong impact on deployable explosives. Mines can be destroyed before they deal damage, even when triggered. This removes one of their core strengths, which is the ability to punish movement or control space. Similarly, other placed explosives can be neutralized quickly, reducing their effectiveness as traps. This forces players to rethink how they use these tools. Explosives can backfire. Another interesting effect of this gadget is how it changes the risk associated with explosives. In certain situations, intercepting a projectile can result in the attacker being affected by their own weapon. This is especially noticeable with grenade launchers, where the projectile is neutralized in a way that reflects the damage back toward the source. This introduces a level of risk that doesn't normally exist. Players can no longer assume that using explosives is safe or advantageous. Instead, they have to consider the possibility that their own attack could be countered in a way that works against them. What it doesn't work against. Despite its strengths, the gadget does have limitations. It doesn't interact with throwing knives, flashbangs, smoke grenades, or incendiary grenades. These items either don't trigger the system or don't qualify as interceptable projectiles. Additionally, some weapons are simply too fast to react to consistently. In these cases, the gadget may fail to lock on or activate in time. However, given the number of threats it does counter, these gaps don't significantly reduce its overall impact. In actual gameplay, the gadget becomes even more effective when used in coordination. For example, vehicles that rely on flares as their primary defense can now be supported by players using this gadget. Once flares are on cooldown, incoming missiles can still be intercepted, allowing the vehicle to survive situations that would normally result in destruction. Team play is where it becomes overpowered. The true strength of this gadget becomes clear in team-based scenarios. A single player using it is already impactful, but multiple players coordinating their use can create a defensive system that's extremely difficult to break. Vehicles become harder to destroy. Missiles become unreliable. Explosives lose consistency. And for players on the receiving end, it can feel like their attacks simply aren't working. This shifts the focus of the game toward coordination and positioning, rather than raw firepower. The gadget explained. The gadget is called the HTI MK2 hardware suppression system. It's available on the Recon class and is unlocked through the Battle Pass. It operates with limited charges that recharge over time, which helps prevent constant use. While it may have been designed primarily for smaller threats like drones, its actual applications extend far beyond that. In practice, it functions as a countermeasure system for a wide range of projectiles. So is it overpowered? In many ways, yes. This isn't just another gadget, it's a shift in how the game is played. And depending on how players adapt to it, it could end up being one of the most important tools in Battlefield 6.